All right. Welcome, everyone, to our spotlight for the month of November. The presenter for this month, his name is Rishi Bond. I have him here with me. And this is his opportunity to tell a little bit of his story. We get to know him a little bit. I've gotten the privilege to know him a little bit. And so I want to be able to share your wisdom and your knowledge with the world. And before we get started, because this month and this presenter, Rishi, is going to be speaking on cryptocurrency, this is not financial advice. We are not financial advisors. This is just us sharing our story, and this is for educational purposes only. Just a disclaimer. So Rishi, thank you.
Good disclaimer.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time out. I'm super excited for everyone to get to know you this afternoon. So if you want to take a moment to just introduce yourself, who you are, where you are, and what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Allison. This is great. To the Sovereignty Circle. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Rishi Bond, as you heard, and I'm 38. I'm a Guatemalan, and I'm currently living in San Marcos, La Laguna, Lake Atitlan, Sololá, Guatemala, Central America. And I started living in San Marcos 2 years ago because I was completely fed up with the city. And this was actually quite a transformational decision in my life. And I remember that I was sitting in my apartment, and I wanted to go see a friend. And at that moment, when I wanted to take that action, all of these things started to pop into my head. Yeah, but there's going to be traffic. It's going to be an hour and a half to go and come back. And there were just so many different obstacles that didn't allow me to do what I wanted to do. And I felt really, really trapped, and I didn't feel free. And I'm an advocate of freedom. And at that point I said, okay, this doesn't feel right. And I started actually questioning whether or not I wanted to live in the city, whether or not that was a conscious decision that I was making to live in the city, because it seems like there's this programming that that's where success is. You know, if you want to be successful in any way, shape, or form, you got to be in the city. You know, go where the people are, go where all the movement's happening. And I never actually sat down and said, wait a minute, is this my story or is this someone else's story? And then at that point, I prayed and I said, if there is another place where I need to go, send me a sign and I'll follow. And the very next day, I saw a post in the San Marcos community group for a job offering as a project manager with the condition that they had to live in San Marcos. And so I was looking for a sign. I said, this looks like a sign. And I applied. They called me the same day and I was hired 2 days later. Big shout out to Christopher Berkey for hiring me, by the way, changing my life. Thank you so much. And that's kind of where my journey leaving the city and this process of rebirth started.
Beautiful. So I know you have a whole background behind that story, right? So you're from Guatemala, you are a native. I would love to know a little bit about your background, specifically where you came from. What was it like being Rishi Bond growing up in Guatemala City, and kind of how it led you on the path to San Marcos and specifically into the crypto universe, because this is what we came here to dive a little deeper into.
Yeah, I'd love to. So born and raised in Guatemala, I went to an American school. My dad's from Philly, in case everyone's wondering why this Guatemalan kid has such good English. And I spoke English at home. And I also, you know, I don't really like look Guatemalan. A lot of people would say I look a little Pakistani, maybe a little Indian, Middle Eastern. And I'm 6'1". I'm quite tall for Guatemalan. So growing up was actually really, really interesting because I was kind of a man of dualities. I was born in Guatemala, but I speak really good English, don't look Guatemalan, but I live here, and was in this kind of identity crisis where it was like, am I American or am I Guatemalan? I had a lot of American cultural influence because of the school that I went to, an American school as well. And growing up in a third world country definitely gives you some perspective on real world problems. And I had that all around me. Every time that I went outside of the city and into towns, I could see the poverty. I could see that even Spanish, which is the native language here, or the national language here in Guatemala, not everyone speaks Spanish. There's 22 different Mayan dialects, and that's what's spoken outside of the city. And I was just very privileged. I was very privileged to receive an amazing education and be able to form a part of both worlds in one way or another. At about 18, I graduated and I got a scholarship over in Marymount College, California. And I came back and I finished my industrial engineering degree here in Guatemala. And I continued this like corporate path, because that's kind of what I wanted at the time. I thought that this is what was going to make me happy. This was going to bring me the amount of wealth that I desired, the amount of success. And so I went into this mission, like, how can I build my resume? Like, it became like that objective, let's do community service. What is it going to take to like land this like dream job of being CEO of a multinational company? And I was like building towards that. I finished my industrial engineering degree, and then a postgraduate in quality assurance. And I ended up doing a double master's in Tulane. And it was just about acquiring these pieces of paper that would somehow vouch for the fact that I knew what I was doing and I was competent. And it was really interesting. This whole corporate world taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about structure. It taught me a lot about what it really requires to work inside of a company with so many employees. And I learned a lot about processes and optimizations, and I love finance, and I have a big financial background. And I've always been in tech. I worked as a project manager also for quite some time in software development, project management specifically. And I was always into technology, all the time into tech. Whether it be the new software or any new tool that's going to make a process better, faster. And then at around 2012, 2013, I started hearing about this thing called Bitcoin. That's when it started. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of like reading a couple of articles here and there because I was always looking at tech news and all that stuff. And started hearing about this thing called Bitcoin. And my initial reaction is probably very similar to many people's initial reaction. This is a scam. This isn't going to work. This is going to fail. It's not backed by anything. Like, it's just like some sort of Chuck E. Cheese token, magic internet money. And so I completely ignored it. I completely ignored it. I was just like, all right, well, whatever. It's, some geeky internet thing, whatever. And then year after year, it started coming back, and I started seeing more articles and more articles. And it wasn't until 2017 that I realized that it was time to pay attention. And so I took a deep dive and I went into the rabbit hole and I said, what is this really about? It keeps popping up on my radar. Like, I can't get away from it. Every time I open Google News, every time that I open some sort of news outlet, it's like Bitcoin. Have you heard about Bitcoin? You're doing Bitcoin. And now in retrospect, I was like, whoa, like, I think, the universe was telling me like, hey, bro, take a look at this, like ASAP. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't until 2017 when I actually listened. I said, okay, let's actually see what this is about. And I opened up the Bitcoin white paper. And for those of you who don't know what white paper is, it's a document that most cryptocurrencies have that kind of explain what the cryptocurrency is all about and how it works. So just a quick little parenthesis for anybody that is looking to invest in some sort of coin. First question you ask them is, can I see the white paper? And that'll tell you a lot about the company or the coin and so on. So I read the Bitcoin white paper, and as I was reading it, it blew my mind. It blew my mind because by that time I had completed my master's and I studied economics and became a libertarian. And this currency, digital currency that wasn't controlled by a central government, was just like some sort of utopia that coincided with my own personal beliefs. And so I said, well, this is amazing, but how does it work? You know, I read it, I said, this is great, this is fantastic, this is everything I'm looking for in a currency. It's not controlled by any group or central entity, it's not controlled by governments, it's completely decentralized, it's quick, it functions like email. And I said, this is fantastic. By the time 2017 rolled around, I was already making international transactions. And so I knew firsthand like the burden of like moving money from one place to another across borders. And I always wondered, like, why is this so difficult? Why is it so hard to send money from one place to another? Things should be like email. You know, I just need your address, send you an email, and it's done. Like all the money's already digital, you know, most of it.
Yeah.
So why is it so hard? And then I went into another rabbit hole about control and surveillance and all this other stuff, which I'm not going to get too much into.
Yeah.
Feel free to interrupt me at any time if you want to like dive into any other.
Please
like,
keep going. The rabbit hole is deep. We're not going to go there because I could probably talk for.
It's deep,
decades.
y'all. It's deep. It's deep. It's deep. And so I said, okay, like let's really pay attention. Read the white paper, loved it, and then I said, how can I get it? I like it. I want to try it out. How can I get it? And in 2017, getting crypto here in Guatemala, well, in 2017, getting crypto in general was a challenge, let alone in Guatemala, in a third world country with a completely locked banking system. And so I started to research, it's like, how can I get crypto? And at that time, you know, there were two main ways to get crypto. Option number one, you buy it through a centralized exchange, like Coinbase, for example, which has existed for quite some time. I didn't have access to that, you know, because I live in Guatemala. So the second option is to mine cryptocurrency. So you can either buy it back then or you can mine it. And so I said, well, if I can't buy it, that means that the only option is I got to mine it. And so I started doing research. And I've always kind of been a hardware guy. Like I was saying, I have a lot of technological background in encryption and computers and hardware in general. And I started researching what it would require for me to mine Bitcoin. And I started going in, and it was still kind of hard because the hardware was being sold in China. I had to import it. Customs here in Guatemala are a pain in the ass. And so I started researching this other cryptocurrency called Ethereum. And I was like, ooh, there's more. You know, it's not just Bitcoin. It's like other cryptocurrencies. Let's check this out. And I started researching this other thing called Ethereum. And I understood what it was trying to do. It's like this platform where other applications can function off of it. And it's like a big network that allows people to do that. So you can build stuff on it. It's not so much a currency like Bitcoin, which is just money. This is actually a platform. You can build stuff on it and smart contracts, you know, which we might get into a little bit later. But I thought it was really, really cool. And it was the number 2 cryptocurrency. And I said, okay, well, maybe I can get that and then trade it into Bitcoin. So I started doing some research about how to mine Ethereum. And I came up with the plan. I'm an engineer, so, you know, I busted out my Excel and started doing the cost analysis. You know, I made the list. I said, how much is this going to cost me? What's the forecast? What's the return on investment? Because my main interest at the time was, let's make some money, you know, and I know that that's like the first big sexy hook with cryptocurrencies. It's like people are getting rich. I want to get rich. How can I get rich? And so I did my research, and I spent about 2 months just reading all the types of articles on the different types of graphics cards that you needed, and the different processors and all the different components of how to optimize a hobby mining rig. And so I had everything done. I had the study done. And I remember my partner at the time, I was really doubting to do this because it's a big investment. And in the end, I had a stable job and everything, but it was like $6K that I had to spend on this mining rig for something that I don't even know if it's going to work or not. So I was on the fence, and sending blessings to my partner, who finally pushed me and said, "You can fucking do it, so do it." And she said, "Just go for it. Like, you are more than capable of doing it. You're obviously passionate about it. Fucking do it." And so she pushed me, and it was like that push that I really needed to be able to jump into this world fully. So I bought a plane ticket to Miami because the hardware you couldn't buy here. I went to Miami, I bought all the gear, I came back to Guatemala, and I built my mining rig to mine Ethereum. Oof. I'm gonna pause there for a second. I'll drink some water.
Yeah, wow, incredible. So you've really been deep. Like, building a mining rig is and maybe it's easier now, but still, you really need to have like the know-how and to do your research and really be in it deep in order to build a mining rig.
I mean, to mine Ethereum, just to give a little bit of a background to people, to mine Ethereum, you need graphics cards, and to mine Bitcoin, you need what are called ASICs, or application-specific integrated circuits. And ASICs are very specific machines whose only function is to mine Bitcoin, whereas graphics cards are used for gaming, are used for computers, and are more readily available. And it's about building basically a powerful computer with 6 graphics cards attached to it, which has its own challenges, and doing the troubleshooting. And I remember that I built my mining rig. I called it Frankenstein because it had like PVC tubes. It was kind of flimsy, it wasn't really pro. I didn't make it out of aluminum or anything like that. I just had to go with what I had. And it took me like 2 weeks to really tweak it, and I bought a voltage meter that allowed me to measure the amount of electricity it was pulling, because when you're mining, your main source of expense is the electricity that you're consuming to be able to mine this cryptocurrency. So I brought the stuff down, I configured it, and in about 2 weeks, it was up and running. And there was this little rig in the corner of my office, just going away. It's just mining and mining and mining. And I remember like waking up and just kind of peeking at the corner, and it was just like my little baby. It was like my pride and joy. And then I started getting Ethereum. And I saw it in my wallet, and it was like I had a wallet, and I was doing some stuff here in the physical world, and then I was receiving some other stuff in the digital world. And then I got that Ethereum and I sold it, and I was like, this is real. That was the moment when I said, this isn't bullshit, this is real. And I was hooked from that moment forward.
Rightfully so, hey? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And at the time, what was the price of Ethereum?
Oof, it was below 2, it was like 100, it was oscillating between 140, no, it was like $90, between 90 and 140. It was dipped into the 75 areas. And so I started mining Ethereum. I started accumulating Ethereum, and just going accumulating, and I made a pretty penny. And this was when, in 2017, it's a very specific period in the history of cryptocurrencies known as the ICO boom. And when a lot of people started realizing that you can actually use cryptocurrencies to fund your personal projects, everyone started launching their own coins. And money was like flowing into these projects, millions of dollars, and like these coins were like skyrocketing. Projects that didn't have a lot of foundation, solid teams, business plans, they just kind of launched a coin, and magically all this money started flooding into their token. and you would see these ICOs just go nuts. And then at the end of 2017, December 2017, January 2018 was the burst of that ICO boom and the start of the 2-year bear market, which now I wear with pride. And just so everybody knows, when I say bear market, that means that it's an extended period of time where the trend is downwards. And a bull market is an extended period of time where the trend is upwards. And right now we're actually in a bull market.
Wow. And can you just explain what is an ICO?
Come back, internet.
How you doing? Good?
Yeah, I'm good. There we go.
And so can you explain what an ICO is, just so?
I sure can. So for anyone who's studied or done into stocks, they might have heard of an IPO, which stands for initial public offering. And this is when a company goes public and you're able to buy their stock in the stock market. So an ICO is kind of the equivalent. It stands for initial coin offering. And it's when a company says, hey, listen, this is our company, or this is our project, this is our token, this is how that token is going to work, and we're going to sell it to the public, and you can participate and be a shareholder, if you want to look at it that way, of this company. And that's what an ICO is.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay,
so it
cool.
went crazy.
Yeah. So it was kind of like this, for example, like the 2008 housing bubble in the US, where it shot up and like got this huge injection of money, and then it burst. And so in the burst, did you end up losing your money?
Oh, I lost so much money, and temporarily lost so much money. It was brutal. By that time, I went all in, and I'm going to tell you guys a story. Don't do this. Okay? Don't do this. It worked out for me, but just don't do this. Right around August or October of 2017, I was so convinced that cryptocurrencies were going to change my life that I decided to take a really big loan out. And I took the loan and I bought Bitcoin and Ethereum with it. And I was able to catch that huge spike of the 2017 ICO bull market. And I was able to make a lot of money. But then the bear market came. And this has been an extremely valuable experience for me, because I got in right when everything was going up. Probably how a lot of people are now getting in and making a lot of money, because everything is going up. But then when the bubble burst and I started to lose and just bleed, it's like a slow bleed of money, and just seeing the value of your portfolio start to tank. Because it's not like it'll do something like this, then it'll go up, and then it'll do this, and it'll go up. So it's kind of like when you throw a ball onto a surface, it'll bounce and then bounce. And each time it bounces less high. And it's just like this slow bleed. And it was brutal. And I lost so much money. But at the end, one of the concepts of cryptocurrency that a lot of people forget is that you don't lose money unless you sell. And if you have conviction that Bitcoin is going up in the long term, then it's just a temporary loss. You don't actually concrete that loss until you sell at a loss. Because if you wait long enough, Bitcoin is just going to keep going up. And back in the day, when people would tell me like, yeah, but Bitcoin's a bubble. Now I can say Bitcoin has bubbles. It sure does. It has these spikes where it goes up and then it tanks. But then you just got to wait for the next one to come. And this is the pattern. Every 4 years, Bitcoin has cycles. But the overall trend is up, 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 and up.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for that little background, your trials and errors. This brings up a question that I want to ask. How has this changed your relationship with money and abundance? And we're in this bull market now, right? So everything is trending upwards. How has your experiences shaped how you operate now in the crypto space and your relationship with, if you want to talk like relationship with money and abundance and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I started getting into cryptocurrency was the first time that I actually asked myself, what is money? Because it's so ingrained into our culture that we don't really question, like, what's up with this bill, this piece of paper that I receive when I work, or when it's my birthday, I'll get this piece of paper, which I can then trade for goods. And it wasn't until cryptocurrencies came into my life that I started actually questioning, what world is money? Where does it come from? Why did we all agree that this piece of paper has more value than this other piece of paper? At the end, there's still paper, so what's really going on? And I learned that money is actually a language. And this is from a video that I love from Andreas Antonopoulos, who is my favorite Bitcoin advocate / expert. And by the way, anyone who calls himself an expert in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, run. Don't listen to him. No one is an expert here. We're all learning. But he is one of the most knowledgeable people on Bitcoin technically. And I saw a video and it really made sense. He said, money is a language. Money is how we talk and interpret value. And if enough people come together and say that something has value, then it has value. And just that concept for me really took me a long time to assimilate. And then I went back and started researching about how money actually came to be and how what was used before. And the Mayans used to use cacao beans, and then we had silver, and then there were shells in certain periods. And it's like, it's just anything that has a certain value that is agreed upon. And so I said, why wouldn't this work? You know, if enough people agree that Bitcoin has value, then it has value. And then I started asking myself, okay, well, what's backing it? You know, it seems like the common denominator here is that there's some form of scarcity. You know, obviously something that is very abundant is going to have less value than something that's scarce. So there were certain denominators about what makes a money good money. Like, how do we know what money is good money? And just the technology that has evolved in money in and of itself. So when I understood that something has value because enough people agree that it has value, then that just really shifted my mind about what money actually was. And that's why today I believe that cryptocurrency, besides being a technology that's backed by proof of work, is the future. I don't even doubt it anymore. And there's a saying where it's like, you know, first they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. You know, we're in that stage where we are winning, you know, because this concept of the more control you have, the safer it is also a big paradigm shift. And with Bitcoin, it's completely the opposite because it's decentralized. It's the more people have it, the safer it is. It's not the less amount of people have it, the safer it is. And this concept of decentralization has really shifted my mind, you know, and it makes total sense. Like, if you have your money in one vault, in one place, that's a point of attack, you know. But what happens if you divide that money over 100 different countries? Like, it's so much safer, you know. And that concept of decentralization also really shifted the way that I think about value in general. Yeah, I love Bitcoin, by the way. Yeah. And what was the other question?
I was just wondering your relationship with value and with money, like in your personal day-to-day interactions, right? You just explained a little bit about how, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and how as a society we give value. And it's funny because cryptocurrency and stock markets and all these things, it's based partially on hype, right? And so it's like, can you catch the wave before it breaks? Can you be on the front line? And I think that's what we're currently coming to now, is we're realizing that we actually are standing on the front line of something that will change the face of tomorrow. No ifs, ands, or buts, you know? And just personally, so the people out there get to know you a little bit better, just like, what's your personal relationship with abundance, with value, with prosperity, and what is your vision for that?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. So, I'll take it back to when I was actually in a place in San Marcos, and Bitcoin again was booming. And I took a look at my portfolio and I was like, I'm doing really well. Like, I have financial abundance. And it took me a period of 5 years, 6 years, going through emotional strain, late nights checking my crypto portfolio, doing the technical analysis because I had into that, tweaking it, selling it, buying it, trading it, DeFiing it, and all this other stuff. It took me 6 years. And then I took a look at my portfolio and I was like, I think I'm good. Like, I'm happy with what I have. But I felt this like chip in my mind that said more, 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 more. And I had to actually sit down with myself and analyze, what is this driving force that was wanting me to have more and more and more. And now I realized that it was all scarcity mindset. I was a place where I had so much, and everything that I needed to be happy, I already had. And yet I had this conditioning of wanting more and more and more and more. And so I actually had to take action on that specifically. And I said, okay, let's give it a number, because I'm obviously chasing some sort of carrot that just seems like I can never reach it. Let's sit down and let's analyze what this was. And just personally, as a man, I was concerned that I wasn't going to be able to provide for my family, and I wasn't going to be able to be that protector, which is the role that I wanted to take in. And when I realized that that was the underlying fear for this scarcity mindset, I said, okay, how much money is it that I need to earn in passive income to be able to feel safe? And so I came up with a number, and with that number, I worked backwards and came with a 10-year plan, which I'm executing. And that's when I started to really understand that having tangible goals and objectives really allow us to detach from that constant more, 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 and more, and more. So now having these goals and having these objectives really allows me to lock that in, put it on a piece of paper, and then be happy, get it. So this was a big change. And so now that I am just so abundant in so many different areas of my life, I'm living my freest life. I'm living my happiest life. I just have a desire to give back. And that's what I'm doing now at the lake. I'm spending so much time in sharing this abundance because I was blessed to be able to have invested so early in crypto and gone through that process. And now that I'm good, I just have this overflowing desire to help others get into cryptocurrency and to avoid the mistakes that I made, which were painful.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's great to hear, because it's true. We have this consumer mindset that just drives us to want more. And we're coming up on the holiday season, for example, and this is when we start to see the scarcity, the fear, the lack mentality, the needing more. It's funny because it almost is like the two don't coalesce or collide, but they actually do, right? Like the commodities, the needing, the wanting. And once you feel safe within yourself, and this is kind of what I talk about in my own work, right? You take back your power, you take back your sovereignty, you remember your power, you remember that it actually does come from inside. And at least from my experience, abundance has come to me in an infinite amount of ways. And the cryptocurrency is just something that we can use to translate. Like you said, it's like a language. Like we get to use that to translate it into giving back. And I really am so happy to hear that that is a driving force. And this leads me to my next question that I wanted to highlight and spotlight, which is, tell us a little bit about your cryptocurrency current project, because there's something really
Okay,
exciting
I would be
happening
happy to.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much, Allison. Yeah, guys. So even though I've been in this space for such a long time, there are some technological limitations in my mind of how we can continue to use Bitcoin as a currency, which is what its original purpose was. And a lot of people right now are using it as a store of value, which is completely valid. But its original purpose is as a currency. So my mission, when I started a group at the lake called Crypto Atitlan with a couple of friends, was we need to bring education first, because our ultimate goal is we want people using cryptocurrency as a means of exchange. We want people paying for stuff with cryptocurrency, because that's going to bring us a lot of benefits as a community, because we're going to be able to protect our privacy, protect our identity. No one has to be seeing what it is that we're transacting and paying for. So there's a lot of freedom in that, a lot of sovereignty in that. But before we actually have people doing commerce with crypto, there's this big educational effort that needs to come first. And so we started a group called Crypto Atitlan here at the lake. And I'm glad to say that just recently, I think it was 354 people that are there learning about crypto all the time. And we have events constantly trying to teach people about crypto. And you know, we got to remember that if you have crypto now, you are still less than 5% of the entire world population. So a lot of people ask me like, oh, I think I'm late. No, like we're just getting started. So we started with that educational effort. And in the back of my mind, there was always like, how can we use this for commerce? Because Bitcoin transactions are expensive. They're slow. Ethereum as well, they're expensive. Like I can't be using these cryptos to pay for my, my tortillas or my pupusas or my pizza or my beers. I can't, like, it doesn't make any sense. I'm going to be paying $15 transaction for a 0.05 cent item. It doesn't make any sense. And then this place called Bitcoin Beach in El Salvador started coming into my radar. And everyone was like, the solution is Lightning Network. Lightning Network is the solution. And I had my doubts, because the last time that I went and did a deep dive on Lightning Network many years ago, it was still clunky. It was still very unuser friendly. And just a quick little snippet there for those of you who don't know what Lightning Network actually is. Lightning Network is a layer 2 solution or layer 2 network that sits on top of the blockchain network. And I'm not going to get too technical, but Lightning Network Bitcoin is Bitcoin, just on a different network, and it needs to consolidate and go back on the network for you to be able to transact in legacy Bitcoin. So this network was created exactly for this purpose, where if you have two people that are constantly doing commerce, then these transactions don't need to be placed on the actual ledger until both decide that the channel needs to be closed. Because at the end, the Bitcoin blockchain is just a big spreadsheet. It's a ledger that has a list of transactions since the beginning of block 0. And back then, it just wasn't really working very well, but now it's working amazing. So I went to Bitcoin Beach in El Salvador, and I saw how they were doing it. And I was just blown away with the technology. And I was blown away on how it was so cheap and quick to be able to pay for even the most minuscule things with Bitcoin on the Lightning Network. So when I saw it in action, I said, no, absolutely not. This is the solution. This is what I've been looking for, and this is what we need to implement in Lake Atitlan. But what a lot of people don't realize is that Bitcoin Beach is actually and started as social programs funded by Bitcoin. And so I saw what they were doing, and I said, we need to partner up and we need to implement this in Lake Atitlan, because for those of you who haven't been to San Marcos or Sununa or Lake Atitlan in general, it's a poor area. There's still so much that the community needs in education, in health, and some in actual development of skills. And everything just kind of came together. And at that time, I was speaking with another person who is a good friend of mine, and he said, Bitcoin Lake. And it just made total sense to me. And so I came back to the community, and about 3 months ago, or maybe 4, I touched upon this idea. And the idea is Bitcoin Lake, which is social programs funded by Bitcoin. And it's going to be a nonprofit organization with absolute transparent accounting that allows you to visualize your donations and exactly where they're going, and the different programs that are going to be started to be able to help the community. And all of this with community involvement, because what I've been seeing a lot of organizations do is that they'll come and assume they know what they want, what the community wants, and then say, listen, we're offering this skill. But because I'm Guatemalan, what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be talking to the community first. And it's like, what do you need? Like, I don't want to assume to know what you need. So I want to know what you need. Tell me what you need. And, we'll see if what they're saying is, hey, we want computer skills, or hey, we want English classes, or hey, we want to learn about carpentry. Hey, we want to learn about programming. Whatever it is that comes up, then build social programs around that and receive funding from the Bitcoin community. And that's coming, and that's exciting, and I'm so excited.
Yes. And I have obviously holds a very special place in my heart, because I too am a resident of Lago Atitlan. And yes, I'm really looking forward to the future. As you know, the structure of science meets spirit has inherently built into it a way to give back. And so now I am, in my mind's eye, seeing ways that we can integrate our 2 programs together. So stay tuned for future things. I'm just like, now like, all of my things are going, all the bells are going off in my head. But wow, thank you so much. That is, that feels really amazing. That feels exciting. That feels like what I think had been missing from like a spiritual community was the practicality, was actually the feet on the ground, figuring out how we can bridge the gap. And this is very much what Science Meets Spirit does. And this is also kind of model of Bitcoin itself, right? Or cryptocurrency as a whole of itself. It's like decentralized, run autonomously by the people who are invested in it. And I see lots of beautiful outcomes from your project and from this seedling of an idea that you have. And so thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you so much for giving me that space. I'm super excited on what's to come with Bitcoin Lake. Like, in the end, it's about freedom. All of this is about freedom. It's about sovereignty. It's how can we take control of our finances? How can we take control of our emotions? How can we take control of our lives so that we can be our best selves? And if there's an opportunity for me to help with that, using my very personal gifts that were given to me, they're not even mine, they were just given to me. It's my responsibility to use them. And it just happened to be cryptocurrencies and finance, then I'm going in that direction, So I'm super, super excited for the next couple of months as I concrete the idea and lay it out and get it going, because I do believe it's going to have a huge impact in the community, and also help bridge the expat local community gap as well. Because Bitcoin doesn't care who you are. Bitcoin doesn't care where you're from. Bitcoin doesn't care if you have a master's or you didn't even go to school, or what your skin is, or what your sexual orientation is, or what your religion is. Bitcoin doesn't care. And it's just such a powerful tool to be able to have something that way and implement it in the community. So I'm super, super excited.
Yes, awesome. So there's just one more thing I want to ask you before we wrap up. If you could give one piece of advice or something that you would like to share with the listeners, take a moment, take a breath, and see if anything comes through your channel that you would like to share as kind of like a closing piece.
Okay, I have to come closer for this one. Here we go. Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies can change your life. But it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Learn first. Invest in yourself. Learn what you're doing. Learn how to keep your money safe. Don't go gambling. Don't become a gambler. Become an investor. And that means making sure that you're educating yourself on your own limitations and your own risk tolerance and what are the things that you can actually do. And good luck. And I'm here to help.
Yes, thank you. Amazing. So this was absolutely jam-packed. I am so grateful to have this wonderful vortex just keeps providing for us, and to be able to be in a space where we can start to give back and where we can really start to nurture the natural world that we are a part of, and to really just bridge the gap between science, spirituality, technology, and natural persons, and really just paving the way for the future. We are on the precipice of this massive change, and so thank you for being a way shower, for showing up, for being open and receptive to the channeled information and the hard work and the dedication that you've put in. I think that the listeners and the watchers will find this extremely valuable. And with that being said, Rishi and I are going to do another in-depth round of Crypto 101. So Rishi's going to go a little bit further into the blockchain, a little bit further into some of the technical side of cryptocurrency. He is also going to do a really fun, I guess you could call it like an activity where we're actually going to send transactions over the Lightning Network. So if y'all are interested, if today's chat really sparked something inside of you that lit you up, and please contact us. We are hosting on the Wednesday, November 24th, will be our in person, we'll call it in person. It's over Zoom. That will be the official Sovereignty Circle. This circle will be paid. It is $33 for your personal investments, and you have an opportunity to leave with $5 in Bitcoin. So get really excited about that. Feel free to reach out to us. I will put Rishi's contact information in the link underneath the video, as well as moving forward, we'll have some other emails that will be sent out. So I will leave the link to get the emails as well from Science Meets Spirit. And I just want to once more extend my deepest gratitude to you, Rishi. What a blessing it is to have people in my immediate circle that are making such a beautiful impact and who are standing on the precipice of change, and to just inspire others to get excited about things that can really change the future. And so I appreciate you.
Thank you. And I appreciate you, Allison. Thank you so much for holding the space and allowing the opportunity for so many different experts in their areas to be able to share this and grow together, which is what the circle is about. So I'm excited to be a part of it. I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for the space that you hold for everybody here.
Yes. Together we rise.
Together we rise.
This is Allison Graham with
Rishi Bond.
Rishi Bond, teaching all about cryptocurrency. Once more, not financial advice, solely just for education, for fun, for us to share our story, to hear the amazing story of Rishi, and to just learn together. So thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed, and we will see you in the Sovereignty Circle on November 24th. Ciao, y'all.
See you then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.